Welcome back to Grasping the Gridiron. I'm your host, Zach Thummel, and today I'll be taking you through my alma mater, the Washington State Cougars, and their projections, in my opinion, for the 2025-2026 season. I'll take you through the schedule game by game, and then I'll also give you my prediction for their top performers on offense and defense, and then just an overview of the team's mentality in general. All right, so the first thing we're going to take a look at here is the schedule for the Cougars. And so I'll just read it off, game by game, and give some analysis and some prediction there. So the first game is August 30th versus Idaho at home. And I have WSU winning this one 41-14. I think they're going to be ready to play, show up. I think Rogers is a no BS kind of guy, and I think that'll reflect in the game one performance. Teams can obviously slip up. It's a first game, but I'm very confident with this team and what I've seen in the team through fall camp heading into this first game. And then the second game is home against San Diego State, and I see the Cougars taking care of business here, 27-14. And this is a game that they could very easily come out flat after a week one performance under a first-year head coach. But San Diego State, I just don't envision them coming up to the Palouse and being able to deal with a week two or game two game for Washington State and the fans on the Palouse. I think when you're dealing with a team that's defensive oriented, coming into the Palouse is going to be incredibly hard. And then the next game, third game, is at North Texas. And I think this one's going to be a really tough game for the Cougars on the road in Denton. But also, I also think they're going to take care of business by a little bit. And so I have them starting out the season 3-0, 24-13 there against North Texas. And yeah, like I said, starting out the season 3-0. But then comes the big bad wolf, so to speak, for the Cougars. In week 4, I have them losing or game 4, that is, I have them losing to Washington in the Apple Cup, 28-24. And that's going to be, I think, a really ground and pound oriented game with Jonah Coleman and the Angel Johnson, and then these two defenses. So it'll be fun to also see Tariq Buda Alukta back at Washington State. He transferred from Washington State to the University of Washington. So that'll be an interesting dynamic amongst those players pregame and such. And then you head it to the fifth game. So they're 3-1 now, according to me. And they will be heading to Colorado State and heading to Fort Collins. And I have them taking care of business even in a rough potential trap game there in Fort Collins. I have them taking care of 35-17. And then here comes a pretty crazy one here, and a unique one. Washington State, October 11th, travels to Mississippi. And this one, there's no way I can see Washington State taking this one out here. So it's going to be a win for Mississippi, 38-21. I just think in Oxford with Lane Kiffin, it's going to be incredibly tough SEC environment, and I think Lane's going to have these boys ready to go and not overlook Washington State whatsoever. And then October 18th, the Cougars travel to Virginia, and we'll play the Cavaliers there. And I just, again, that's going to be a really, really tough game. 24-17, I have Virginia taking that one. So at this point, I have the Cougars at 4-3 through 7 games. And I just with those 2 road games, it's going to be really hard to win against those teams in those environments back-to-back weeks. And then you go to this 8th game, and it's Toledo at home. So October 25th, you've got MAC action, some action in Pullman, and I think the Greek community is probably going to show out for that one. This is going to be a later sort of game. Fans are maybe going to be a little bit more excited to see at this point 4-3 what's next. Are we going to fall off a cliff here like we have previous seasons, or is this going to be something that is trending. So I think, when fans think about that, they're obviously going to be voting for a trending up in that area, but it'll just really be interesting to see, because in a scenario like this, if they win one of those games, it could be a very, very sold out game. But also, if they go as what I have, the two losses back to back, there could be some fans not showing up to these games in Greek life, and beyond, just within the general student population. But I firmly believe that they'll take care of business 31-10 there. And then the next game is the first game against Oregon State. First of two unique games against Oregon State in one season. And this one's at Corvallis, November 1st. And I think with this Oregon State team, they're going to take care of business at home. And going to be, with Trent Bray, I think this Oregon State team is going to be a lot better this year. And then November 15th, the Cougars will play Louisiana Tech. So the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech will travel to Pullman. Really unique one there, Conference USA opponent there. And yeah, there's no way Louisiana Tech's going to win that one. 34-16 Washington State on the Palouse. This is maybe going to be one where some people are surprised here. So the Cougars, November 22nd, travel to James Madison in Virginia, and James Madison is going to be, of the Sun Belt, James Madison is going to be one of the best group of 6 teams in the nation. They've been so consistent, and there's a reason they moved up to FBS. And I think this team this year has put together a great group of players, without going into detail there, because this is about Washington State. But I know that traveling to James Madison and that unique environment is going to be incredibly difficult for a first-year head coach. And I think that's where a lot of these struggles, I think a first-year FBS head coach, despite being an FCS national champion, I think Rogers is going to see the talent increase. And not that he doesn't know that this is coming, but I think they're really going to start to feel it later in the season. So I have James Madison taking that one 21-17. And then the last game of the year is against Oregon State again, number 2, in Pullman. And I have the Cougars taking care of business here, because it's hard to beat the same team twice. And it's, a cliche. People say it all the time. But especially when you have 2 experienced head coaches. Granted, Rogers is at, the FCS level and below, where Trent Bray has had his experience. Bray and Rogers are 2 defensive-oriented coaches that are going to play games of chess, live-action chess, throughout this game. So I just find it very hard to think that these games, no matter which one it is, whether it's a win in Corvallis or a win in Pullman, I would imagine we're gonna split these games because of how thorough these coaches are. And there's just no way that one of these guys beats another guy twice. I have a lot of respect for those 2 coaches and what they've done, and I think granted at 2 different places, but I think they're going to be it's going to be a fun rivalry for Coug fans, Beaver fans, Pac-12 fans to watch moving forward. And so I have them winning that one, the Cougars, 27-20 in the final game of the season, to round out to a 7-5 record for the year. And from there on out, a decent bowl game, I would imagine, would be the expectation. But this is going with what I confidently think will happen. This very easily could go and turn into a 10-2 team, and Rogers could have everything dialed up. He is a guy that's won a national championship. I wouldn't put it past this team doing incredibly well year one, but I'm adjusting for environmental factors and things of that nature, and just being a first-year head coach at a university that's a lot larger than the one you were at initially, playing against way better competition. it could be a rude awakening, so it could be less than this as well. But I think with this schedule, I think this is sort of a gimme year for the Cougars, where 7 wins is what's expected, and 7 wins is something that needs to be achieved in year one. And now on to our top performers for offense and defense. And the first guy that I think is going to do incredibly well for the offense is running back Angel Johnson. He's a South Dakota State transfer, and I got to watch him on tape before he came to Washington State after he committed, and I really liked what I saw as far as his bag of tricks at South Dakota State and his time there in Brookings. He was an incredibly explosive back, an incredibly vision-oriented back. One cut into a cloud of dust, just very, very patient to that hole, and then when he gets there, he explodes through. He's very compact, and I got to see just a couple practices of his in the fall camp when I was covering the fall camp for CougFan.com, and I really just enjoyed what I saw, and it confirmed everything that I saw on the South Dakota State tape. So I'm really excited, and I think he's going to be the bell cow for Washington State, and I think that they're going to be incredibly, incredibly excited, and I think Coug fans should look forward to what he can do, both on the ground and through the air in this more pro style look. And then the second one here within that run game in Angel Johnson is center Brock Dew. He's a guy that just has been at Washington State for a long time. He's a redshirt senior, and I think this is going to be really the year for Brock Dew, where he's going to get national attention and potentially, a look in the NFL. And I firmly believe, just with the schedule and the opponents we're playing, that it gives an opportunity for a guy like this that's a redshirt senior, played incredibly long, played all 13 games for the Cougars last year, has played all over the line. I think this is a perfect opportunity for an experienced guy like that to shine. So I think he's going to be the second guy there on offense, and I just imagine him being a bulldozer this year with all of that experience, and I saw it in practices too, just in the 2 early practices that I got to watch for the Cougars. And now transitioning to defense, there's one player that came to my mind immediately, and that's Ram Stevenson on defense. He's just an absolute animal edge-wise. And I firmly believe that, this is a senior as well. This is a guy that's in his final year. And with this experience, I firmly believe Washington State is going to be able to make some major adjustments on the defensive end, where last year it wasn't necessarily a strong suit for the Cougars when it was labeled as one on paper. But Ram, has put on some weight. He's in the 250-pound range now, 6'4", long, lengthy guy. I really think this is going to be the year for him. He's technically sound, and I got to watch him play, and he just looked like a man amongst boys, which was a continuation of his career last year, and got stuck behind RJ Ron Stone Jr., got stuck behind Brennan Jackson for a few years, and they were all conference edge rushers in the original Pac-12. So I think this is just going to be the product of his preparation this year, and he could be a guy that I think, I know this guy has the potential to be an NFL caliber edge, and I think you guys are going to get to see that this year. The second one here is free safety Tucker Large, and this is another guy that just has so much experience, so many snaps, so many crunch time situations that he's played in, and he just comes to Washington State from South Dakota State, from Brookings, playing that free safety position in this 4-2-5, 4-3 hybrid, and it's a hard position to play. Free safety is a hard position to play in any defense, but he's going to have a lot of responsibility, but I firmly believe that his transition to the FBS from the FCS is going to be smooth, and I think just in fall camp, with the way that Jimmy Rogers has talked about him, both just as a player and as a person, I think he's the perfect fit for Pullman and going to have phenomenal success, and another guy that could get some NFL looks heading into next year with lots of experience. All right, and lastly here we've got the core identity of the team, and it's pretty simple here, just one word: defense. Jimmy Rogers is a defensive-oriented guy, and the offense will reflect that. They're going to be run first and very short game, quick scheme oriented in the pass game. And so then you flip it back to the defensive side of things. I mean, Rogers was an undersized linebacker at the FCS level playing for South Dakota State when he was a player, and then transitions to be a linebacker coach, coordinator, and then eventually head coach. And you see in those teams and defenses that he coordinated and players that he coached, you see his mentality reflect in the players. And I really think the defense is going to reflect that as well this year at WSU, bringing in a lot of his guys here. I think they're going to benefit tremendously from that. And like I said, defense is going to be the ultimate part of this team. So if the defense can limit the damage enough, I think the offense is going to be good enough to just be able to run the ball incredibly well down certain teams, and then just be able to also be quick with Devin Ellison in the pass game. If this defense shows up, the offense isn't going to have to do much for the team to win. And so for Washington State, the big thing is going to be consistently moving the ball on offense, because I think that the defense is going to be stout and a major improvement going into this year and from last year. Thank you for listening to Grasping the Gridiron. As always, I'm your host, Zach Thummel, and on YouTube, please make sure to share, like, and subscribe, and give comments about certain things you're wanting to see moving forward. And then, on Spotify, make sure to, share and stream those episodes. And appreciate all the support so far, and we'll have more content coming. So be on the lookout for the University of Washington, University of Oregon, Oregon State, and Boise State team previews as well, and those schedule breakdowns and my analysis on what that'll look like. And so if you enjoyed the WSU stuff, or you're looking for another team, fan of another team, just be on the lookout for the other PNW style content coming out.